Welcome, everyone, to the Spiral Marketing Podcast. Today, on Friday the 13th, as we tape, we are trying something brand new. We are doing a bit of a Mad Men style tribute, a tribute to the two cocktail lunches of yesteryear. And we're going to have a little bit of fun with my friend and colleague and fellow agency owner Justin Jones, who is the CEO and Chief Creative Officer for KDG Advertising. That's in Columbia, Maryland. And as I said, a very creative guy. And today's show hopefully certainly will be creative and different. So hang out with us. We've got some interesting topics, and we will be doing our thing while you learn ours. Cheers.
Cheers.
Justin, welcome to the show, man.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Yeah, so you reached out not too long ago, a couple weeks ago, and said, hey, we've talked about doing podcasts before, and I've always been into the idea of having you on the show, of course. Very talented guy. And you've been running an agency longer than I have.
Really?
I think so. Yeah. Spiral Marketing is going into the third year.
We're going into the 12th.
12th year.
Yeah, 12 years.
Man, that's fantastic.
It sounds insane when you say it out loud. It does. It does.
Yeah. Well, tell me about what brought you in here today. Why now?
It just felt like the time was right.
Yeah.
Which sounds so cliche, right? No, the time is right. When is the time ever right? But, I was really thinking about it. We just launched a new website. And we've done podcasts before. I've done, speaking engagements before, but just thought like a good idea to kind of get back into the space. And I remember, reaching out to you years ago when we talked about it, and we've kind of, fiddled around with the idea. So why not?
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Justin's one of those friends who you can call when you're like, I need to get some creative inspiration. Let's get some ridiculous conversation going, and let's fire up those creative neurons.
Yeah.
So
that sounds about right.
Right. So it's good for us to get in. I'm pleased, and I'm sure that the timing is right. So I know you got a lot of stuff on your mind. I do. What's first and foremost on your mind, my man?
Well, the fact that it's 92 degrees after being about, 27 for a good straight 3 weeks in April.
Right.
Besides
we had snow
that,
last week, right?
Yeah. Crazy, right? But no, besides that, brand management. That's kind of the biggest thing. We consider ourselves brand architects over at KDG, as you are, well aware. So we come across a lot of clients that don't necessarily understand the idea between a brand and a logo, or they interchange the two topics. So yeah, my brand is doing this. Well, my logo looks like this, or my brand looks like this. And so, when we sign on a new client or we're working on a rebrand or whatever it happens to be, we hear that a lot. And I think it's a good idea to set the record straight on what the two are. Not just that, but also talk about my two favorite things in branding, which is brand transparency and brand authenticity.
Nice.
And those are two very important things. So where to begin, right?
Well, good question. And it's cool talking about the brand. And it's one of those things where everybody has a little bit of a different take on it. And while there truly are some answers that are wrong, right?
Yeah.
There's also a wide gray area of what's right. And I think some additional perspective from other professionals and creatives is often pretty helpful.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So how do you define brand?
Okay, so for me, a brand is definitely not your logo, and your logo isn't your brand. I can't specify that enough. Your brand will be everything that you do to promote who you are and what you do as a company. So it's the charities that you'll give to. It's the way that you conduct yourself, how you conduct your business. It's the ethics and goals that you stand for, and the like. Your logo is just a proponent to get your name out there. It's the thing that looks shiny and nice for people to get interested enough to click on your website and continue further, right? So people get that very confused. They say, oh, well, my logo is doing great. Sure it is. But if you don't have the backing of your brand to engage your prospective clients, then it doesn't really, there's a disconnect there, right? So I think that's really what I want to talk about. And then also, brand authenticity and brand transparency, like I talked about. So to be brand transparent and to be brand authentic, blah. Yeah, you said it was going to happen, didn't you? Okay, let's try that again. So to be brand authentic and then to be brand transparent are two very important things. Now, just because you're brand authentic doesn't mean that you can't be brand transparent, and vice versa. Brand transparency is more so doing the inner workings of your brand, showing the inner workings of your brand, right? It's showing how the special sauce is made. It's showing how the sausage is made, right? Brand authenticity is working in a way that it's authentic to the key points and messages that your company was founded on. So an example of brand authentic companies would be Patagonia, right? Ben and Jerry's, and Apple. All right, let's pause the company reveals and let's talk about more what they are.
Please, yeah, that's exactly. I was just writing authentic and transparent because I think that helping to define how and give some context of how and why is Patagonia authentic to their brand, I think could be interesting.
Right. Okay. So because you said Patagonia, they work with 100% organic cottons, right? And they've been doing this for years. They're authentic because they stayed true to their brand. They started out with the 100% organic platform, and they're going to continue with the 100% organic platform. Coca-Cola, for example, right? You'll never hear them be brand transparent. The reason why you won't hear that is because you don't know what's going into Coca-Cola.
Right.
Better yet, let's do another one, McDonald's, the Big Mac. The secret sauce. Now, we know what the secret sauce is. We all know what it is, but they say it's secret sauce. So you'll never know what that is. You'll never get that ingredient, just like you'll never get the ingredients to the Whopper flame broiled, blah, 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 blah. So that's why you're transparent. Now, to be transparent, it's not a bad thing to be non-transparent in your brand. It just means that you have something that you don't want people to know.
Sure. Sometimes that's part of your brand, like KFC's secret ingredients.
Yeah, the 37, and I'm sweating up a storm right now. There are a lot of lights here if you can't see this, and it's very hot in here, and I'm wearing a suit. So the authentic aspect keeps you in line with what you originally started off as. The transparent aspect is saying, hey, I'm going to show you the complete and total inner workings of the business. So Ben & Jerry's launched it wasn't a vegan campaign, but it wasn't an organic campaign either, but they wanted to give an ice cream for people who were lactose intolerant, right? And inside of the commercial, they actually said, hey, we've got this and this. So instead of doing actual milk, we're doing, almond milk and this and this and this and that and that and this. So with that being said, they showed what the product was. They showed how the ingredients were going in. You'd never get that from McDonald's.
No.
Right. So that's the difference between transparent brands and non-transparent brands. And then again, the authentic aspect is showing your consumer, your potential clients and consumers why you're still doing business. So if we were to be if we were to be authentic, we're saying, hey, we're going to do this because we saw, creatives jipping out clients or whatever the reason is, and we want to, combat that. So like, what's the reason for you starting Spiral Marketing, right? Like, what's your authentic mission to help your customers?
Yeah, that's a great question. Is it a question?
It's a question.
You are asking
It's
the
definitely a
question?
question.
I appreciate that. Well, 3-ish years ago, I saw this opportunity to not only give back with the then 10, 12 years of marketing experience I had, but also explore topics from people that know more than I do. And while there's the opportunity to give back, there's also the opportunity to grow and have interesting conversations
Right.
and have some fun in there, explore a new platform. So there's hopefully that's both authentic and transparent. Where Spiral Marketing and frankly the brand of Carl Bohm is, I'm always trying to be helpful. So hopefully the podcast is in line with that.
Definitely.
Appreciate that.
So for us, I spent time in the big ad agencies, and I saw how a small client, small for a big time ad agency, so that could be $20,000 for a project, would get kicked around to every single low, junior creative designer, and so on and so forth, and they were too busy worrying about the bigger accounts to look at the mom and pop with the $20,000 budget, right?
Sad.
And I hated that. I hated that the project would get kicked around to the intern, which would go to the junior designer, which then would get kicked up to the senior, and it would never really hit the creative director, right? And I was like, there's got to be a change for that. Something has to be done. So why don't you give it in a way that the creative director is always going to be a part of your team, or at least make it feel like the creative director is actually giving input. And if you can do that and treat the mom and pop $20,000 client just as big as the Facebook, Google, Nike, $100 million client as equals, then you should be able to promote the idea of good marketing and good advertising and good design into the masses, right? That's why I started KDGA 12 years ago. Jesus, 12 years ago. It's weird when it comes out of my mouth still. But that's why I started it. So, we try to stick to that. What you see from us and what you get from us, whether it's a $5,000 job or a $20,000 job or a $500,000 job, you're going to get the same type of feeling. You're going to get the same type of design. You're going to get the same type of connectivity, because I don't believe that I should really, really lay it on thick for the bigger clients and then put you off to the side, right? So that's my authentic standpoint.
Yeah, because if you did that, it wouldn't be authentic.
Exactly. So, you do see some clients, kind of doing that. And to me, it really kind of grinds my gears, because you're seeing it and you're going, what are you doing? Like, how are you working this? I had a client that was really engaged in Instagram, right? And they wanted to increase their followers.
Okay.
And they wanted to buy Instagram likes. That's not true to your brand.
Right.
Right? So if you buy Facebook followers or Instagram followers, you're no longer authentic to who you are, because even if you see a super increase in spike of followers from, let's say, 5,000 to 20,000, they're fake.
Right.
So the people who are actually engaged will then look at that jump in followers and go, something's wrong.
Right.
And that's no longer authentic to your brand. So that's why I practice what I preach.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay. Well, other notes that we've got here collectively: brand ethics, rules of brand management, thinking beyond the logo. What else did you want to explore?
Okay, so thinking beyond the logo. Again, everyone really kind of stops there. I've got my logo. I've got my website. I'm good. I'm done. Not necessarily. You also have the customer relation aspect of it, right? You've got to stick true to your guns. Why did you start your business? Every entrepreneur saw something in their field and said, I can do better, right? And when you start to, whether it's make it big or you really get out there, if you don't take the time to remember where you came from, you fall back into the pattern, and then you become exactly what you got out of the mainstream business. You become that person. So for me, knowing the difference between, what your logo is and what your brand is very important. I believe personally that your brand doesn't just stop at your logo. So yeah,
Right,
you've got your
of course.
logo, and that's great. You've got your website, and that's great. And I'm going to twiddle my thumbs, and I want my phones to ring. And it doesn't work that way.
Right.
You've got to be proactive. So you actually have to put the time in to do your marketing budget. And a lot of people don't do that, right? So all of the things that you've done thus far to get your logo and your brand presence out, that's great, but you've got to go the extra mile. So whether that's, advertising on Google AdWords or Facebook or Instagram, and I'm not too sure you'd want to on Facebook right now.
Yeah,
but
they're having some challenges.
they're
aren't
having
they?
some challenges. But, if you still did it, you've got to stick true to it. And you can't just say, well, I put $500 into Facebook and I should sit back and see 30 calls come in a month. No, it doesn't work that way. It's about the engagement. So you shouldn't be so worried about the followers that are coming in. You should be worried about what your message is saying, and then how is it being transported to the masses, to the actual people that follow you, right? Your brand is so much more important than just the pretty colors that you have and the circles and squares, and, are you using Helvetica versus Times New Roman? It's so much more than that. And if you don't know that, then we've got a problem.
Right. Yeah, marketing is not a field of dreams, right?
No. Kevin Costner is not waiting in the background, about to, hit a home run with the dead ghost of a baseball player. It's not going to work that way. You've got to actually fight for this.
Although it still would make a good ad, wouldn't it?
It would. It would. One day. Maybe we'll do it together.
Yeah, that sounds good.
like it.
I'm terrible at baseball.
Same.
Yeah. Well, we'd be good at playing ghosts.
Yeah, you never know.
Yeah. Well, yeah, if you build it, they won't come. Is the point there?
Yeah. Well, no, but what you just said, if you build it, they won't come. No. Not unless you tell someone about it. You've got to get the ball rolling. You've got to have that snowball effect, right? So,
how do you talk about branding in a sentence? You said it's everything that encompasses the way people think about your brand. Is that what you said?
Yeah, something along that line to that effect.
Yeah, I like that. I often actually think of the physical act of like branding a thing.
Yeah.
Where that stamp on cattle or whatever, that is what's stamped into your brain.
It's
what occupies the gray matter, everything that occupies the gray matter about your brand.
Yeah. Well, you have to think about it. If you think about it in that light, when farmers would brand cattle, it was because if and when their cattle got out, you could see what and who this cattle belongs to, right?
Right.
So if you saw Betsy walking down the street with, the brand on their on her
sweet
butt,
Betsy with her bell.
Yeah, with her bell and her blue bonnet and her little bow tie and all that. But if she ever got out, I could say, hey, I know that's Farmer John's cow. I got to bring it back. And then you'd say, well, why is Betsy out to begin with? What is he doing that allowed Betsy to escape?
Yeah, not great for Farmer John's brand.
Not great for Farmer John's brand, right? So it's things, that's why branding exists, right?
Right.
And then, so there are some Greek societies that will brand you. And once you have that brand on, you've got to act into a caliber because we know who you belong to. So if I step out of term, if I step out of pocket and they say, hey, aren't you a member of blah, blah, blah?
Right.
Now that looks bad for my organization, right? So that's why branding exists. Once you have that brand, you've got to set yourself according to what that brand stands for, that philosophy, that being, that essence. And if you step out of term, bad things happen.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, that's true. You can remember Betsy the cow, folks.
Remember Betsy the cow. Betsy is watching you.
Love it. Well, we went from ghosts to Betsy the cow. I think that we have successfully thought beyond the logo there.
I think we have. I blame the booze. I blame the Mad Men booze.
Cheers.
Cheers.
So when you called, you said, there was a client and we're not going to name names, of course.
Of course.
And they didn't get it from the branding standpoint.
Yeah.
And we can speak in vast generalities here. But do you think that story is germane to the conversation?
I do.
Okay.
I do.
And even if somehow they listen and figure this out, know that we are building value in the lesson that they too can learn from. But if you're not comfortable, we don't need to move forward.
No. Well, you know me, I never shy from a conversation.
Right.
You know, when you are concerned more so with how many people are following you, or how many calls you're generating from an ad, and you remember what I'm talking about with this.
Yes. I've put two and two together.
Putting two and two together there, right? Yeah. You start to degrade your company, right? If your main concern is profit, bottom line, then what are you doing for your customers?
At the expense of authenticity, right?
At the expense of authenticity. You are no longer authentic to why you started your business, right? So, you know, if you call us up saying, why am I not getting 50 calls a month?
Right.
Okay, but do you really care about the 50 calls a month that you're getting, or are you worried about the 10 that really mean something to you and trust you to help them however you can, right?
Sure.
So that's one example. Let's use another one, and let's go back to brand and the idea of social media, right? So the question I'm going to pose to you is it better to have 500,000 followers or 500 followers?
Well, I guess it would depend, right? I mean,
to a degree.
That's ultimately the answer. If it's 500,000 fake followers, then it's not right. Not as good as 500 customers that are active and following.
Exactly. And you have to remember, those 500 loyal followers will share your messages. They will share your posts. They will share and like the things that you're saying because they believe in what you do. And then if they share it with their friends, who shares it with their friends, who shares it with their friends, you will organically start to build a following. You will organically start to build a presence. It's a whole lot different than if you have 500,000 fake followers. Because if I go to Spiral Marketing's Instagram page, right? You got 500,000 followers. And I click on one of your followers and they have one post and 20 following and 3 followers, I automatically know that's a robot. And then I automatically know you probably bought that robot. And I'm going to go, I don't know if I trust Spiral Marketing that much anymore.
Right.
Because why would they do that? Why would they buy this to look good for who? Right? Like, I'd rather be on the low end of a following side, right? And know that my content is reaching people in a way that it feels good to them, then share it to the masses and it just gets lost in a sea of nothingness. Right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Love it. Love it. These are great rules of brand management. Absolutely. Okay. How about, and I'm not going, this is a quote for you. Okay. From you, I'm quoting you, that one of the notes that represent topics here is combating the sea of sameness.
Yes. Okay. All right. Story time.
Let's armor up.
Story time.
Combat that sea of sameness.
Combat the sea of sameness. This is story time now.
Cool.
I attended a networking event, and there were entrepreneurs in a panel discussion.
Great.
So they were all talking about what they did, you know, how they did it, what they did, and all of that fun stuff. And someone in the audience asked about advertising and marketing, and they skipped over the question. Well, they didn't skip over it. They just kind of maneuvered in a way that it didn't necessarily answer the question, right? And I caught it. I went, something's wrong. Okay, wait. They totally just skipped this over. So let me ask a question now. And the question that I asked was to the effect of, how do you combat the sea of sameness in your respected industry. So if you are a real estate agent, I know offhand about 10 that market aggressively.
Sure.
So how do you compete with that, right? The answer that I got was, you just have to go out and do it. You just got to be the best that you can be. And you just have to, fight and just be great. And I heard that and went, no, that's not the question I asked. And I wasn't aware you were going to give me this fairy godmother Cinderella, like, be who you can be and it will be the greatest thing ever and Prince Charming will come. That's not how branding works. That's not how advertising works.
Right. It sounds more like a rah-rah, sis boom ba, go out and sell kind of answer.
It's the Glengarry, Glen Ross approach, right? Always be closing. That's and that's not how this works.
No, that's a sales answer, not a marketing answer.
Yeah. So I remember when I heard that, I wanted to go, no, that's not what I said. What I said was this, and you didn't answer my question. I didn't, probably for good reason. But there's so many people that say that. There's so many people that, they read the books that are, the motivational success books, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, right? Or you can do it. And if you put this much into it and you get this much out of it, and okay, great. That's great. And if it works for you, if you like it, I love it. But the but to this is you've got to actually diversify what you're doing and how is it different than your competitors. So if your competitors are all, branding different advertisements with blue, maybe you should go red. Maybe you should stand out from that. Maybe you should, really badass your brand, right? That's actually a book that I've read. It's called Badass Your Brand. And in it, she says, you've got to really step out. You've got to do things that will disrupt the flow that everyone is accustomed to, right?
Sounds a little bit like the purple cow, like a Seth Godin purple cow.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I guess for those who don't know the purple cow metaphor, I guess, give it to them.
Sure. Well, it's pretty out there, right? I mean, it's literally that you don't want to be a normal looking cow in a sea of cows. You want to stand out by being that purple cow.
Right. Right. So, if everyone is doing the same thing, the same way, after a while, you get lost into the mixture. So you've got to stand out. You've got to do something that really disrupts the normal or the routine, right? Because if we're all the same people moving the same way in the same path, then what are you really doing? So get off that ramp and just move. Go and take the back lane. Do something that really disrupts what everyone is accustomed to seeing in that industry. And if you can do that, I'm not saying you're going to get sales from it. I'm not even going to say that you're going to, become a millionaire overnight. That's not what that's for. But if you can do it, you will be known as a disruptor, an innovator, right? So Steve Jobs is an innovator because he saw the idea of a new computer or an iPod or pad or phone. No one else was thinking about that before he did it. So now everyone has a smartphone, essentially because of Steve Jobs. But if he stayed that path, we wouldn't have necessarily the technology we have right now. So all of that falls back into a brand. All of that falls back into what you're doing for your brand.
Could you answer that for yourself and maybe angle that towards tips that could help other folks?
So tips for me or tips for?
So it's interesting, right? Because we both run agencies.
Right.
And of course, agencies, you're more on the creative side and I'm more on the technical performance. Not that you don't do that too, but just in terms of positioning, right?
Yeah.
You're just more creatively positioned and I'm less involved in that. I don't which is one of the reasons why we work so well together. Yeah. Exactly. But is there more to it than that? So I guess I'd like to hear how you stand out yourself in a sea of sameness and maybe extend that to how the listeners who are running brands could take tips from that to stand out in a sea of sameness.
Okay. All right. So let's start with marketing and advertising as a whole, right? If you go onto any company site, mine, yours, the bigger ones, I won't name names,
Sure.
but the bigger ones, we all have the same general language. Have you noticed that?
Sure.
We do this, and we've done this, and we can do this, and here are our clients, and this is what we do, and do you like it? And see some more, and if you don't like it, then go somewhere else, but if you do, then here, visit us at blah, 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 right?
Right.
We all do it, and here are our awards, and we won this, and see that. Then you go to our Facebook and our Instagram and social, and it's the same thing. Oh, we have this, and here's our dog, and does it look great? And it's the same thing, right?
We're so cool because we let dogs in our office.
Yeah. Oh, our dog is the chief
all right.
barking officer.
Everyone
Isn't that
likes
cool?
dogs. We get it.
Yeah,
I
so-
like dogs too.
So, we all do the same
Fine,
thing.
I'll subscribe to all their stuff.
Right? So I'll like and I'll click and I'll follow, and please send me the newsletter and all that. Right? But if you notice, we all do the same thing. So I don't necessarily, and this is going to come back and bite me, I'm sure. I don't necessarily subscribe to the whole, I want to put my work in annuals, competitions, right?
Okay.
Which sounds weird because that's kind of how we advertise ourselves. Like, advertisers don't advertise. You'll never see us in a newspaper. You probably
Right.
won't necessarily see us in a commercial. But we then tell you, oh yeah, you really got to go for a commercial. That's the way to get your brand, right? So for us, we do a lot of competitions. We submit our work to be the best work in that category against all of the other ones, right? That's what we do. And I don't do that. I don't do that because that's tooting our own horn, right? I don't like to necessarily toot our own horn. We are supposed to work in the background. You'll never see our name against Underwater Basket Weaving LLC's company's billboard. You'll never see it. And you're not supposed to see it. Your company is supposed to stand out, not the people who came up with the idea. The people who came up with the billboard, the commercial. We're not the ones seeking, fame and acclaim. It's to promote your business.
Sure.
So I don't do the whole design annuals or the competitions. I don't want to necessarily win a Clio. I don't want to do a Webby. I mean, sure, maybe one day, great, but not now. 12 years later, I'm still saying the same thing.
So what instead then?
Great work that just stands out for itself. I don't need to be judged by my peers to know that I do good work. If you can increase your return on investment, your ROI on our contracts, and you get more sales out of it, then I've done my job.
Nice.
I don't necessarily need to prove myself to my peers. I need to prove myself to you as my client, right? So if I can give you ROI plus $1, that means that's a profit for you.
Right.
Which means I've done my job. Now, of course, I wanted to be more than $1. But if I get you $1 plus your ROI plus your return on investment, then I've done my job. That's what I want. That's what I do. Not to mention, I don't subscribe to the whole, I need to have 100 creatives in my office.
Right.
We've got 8. No more, no less. I don't want to go up to be 30 and 40 because now you as the client will start to be a statistic. Because if I have 30 mouths to feed in an agency, that means I need to go after the bigger Facebook and Googles and the big clients of the world. I don't want that. I want to help you. I want to do things for you. I don't necessarily want to forget where I came from. I don't want to not be humble in what I do. And I don't want you to feel like you have nowhere to turn, so you turn to the do-it-yourself sites.
Right. Sure.
Because that's horrible for your brand.
Yeah, YouTube some Photoshop and try to make your own brand. That's not going to get you too far on short notice.
Or my favorite, if you use squarespace.com, you can do this. And so I'm going to do it myself. And
I'm sure Keanu Reeves did that himself.
I think he did.
He must have.
He cried his tears and out came a website. Or the bus dropped below, 50 miles an hour, and it was able to get a great website because he didn't have his foot on the pedal for so long. One of them.
That's an old timey reference now. Speed.
Yeah. I'm sure a lot of millennials won't get it.
I'm
glad you got it.
Yeah, they need to find that on Netflix or wherever.
It's somewhere. I don't know where, but it's somewhere.
It's hiding in a torrent or something.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, okay. Any tips for listeners on how to stand out in a sea of sameness?
Come to KDGA.
Okay. All right.
Shameless marketing promotion. No, I don't want to say you have to think outside of the box because it sounds so cliche. Mm-hmm. I think that you really have to remember what it is that drove you to branch out and start your own, company in whatever industry that you're in. And you really have to take a look back and see what you're doing, what your competitors are doing, and what you want to be doing better. And then you need to set aside an actual budget for your marketing purposes.
Yes, you do.
I can't stress that enough.
It's either a budget of time or money.
Yeah.
It's money or time.
Yeah.
You have to pick one.
And you'll lose more money spending time to do something that you can't do.
That's true.
Yeah.
That is absolutely true.
And then you'll lose money doing things that you should have hired someone to do because you took the time away from it. Now you're losing money because you're not dedicated to doing the things that you actually know how to do. Leave it to the professionals, folks.
Amen.
We're here to help you. We don't want to take your money, and we're not some big, greedy fat cat agency that's, oh yeah, we're going to take this and go. No, we want to help you. So when you start doing things yourself, you don't necessarily hit the mark. I mean, some can and some do, and great for you, bully for you. But when you don't know what you're doing and you throw something out, now you've made yourself look bad. You've made your industry look bad. And you've scared me away from you.
Right. It's true. Yeah, you can absolutely do damage to your brand.
Yeah. So I think that's the biggest takeaway.
Mm-hmm.
Trust someone that trusts what you do. Does that make sense?
Trust someone that trusts something that you do.
Yeah. So if you're a real estate agent,
mm-hmm.
and you're the best at selling house,
mm-hmm.
I have to trust you that you're going to sell my house.
Right.
Right? So to do that, I'm going to put my faith in you. But if you put your faith in what I do, if you think that you can do what I do better than what I can do, and then it fails, your reputation of what you do is now shattered because you did it wrong or you portrayed it wrong, right? Make sense?
Sure. So, I think just to restate, if someone doesn't trust you to do what you do, and so they attempt to do what you're doing,
right,
and they do it poorly, then they're actually just disintegrating their own integrity.
Exactly. Which means you've just shattered your authenticity.
Right. Right. So
it's
you're
full
hurting
circle
your own
back
reputation.
to the brand. Yeah.
I like that. You see what he did there, folks?
Yeah, it's a full circle back to brand authenticity.
Love
so it. Yeah, but I mean, if you do that, then you shatter your authentic self, and
mm-hmm.
when you do that, now you've lost potential consumers because they saw something that looked wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And now I don't trust you to do it right because I saw it wrong. So.
Love it. Let's do a time check. So we are here at the Human Factor Studios, and I'm going to check in with Blake. Blake, how are we doing on time?
Wow.
Okay. 40 great minutes. Thank you.
Seems like longer.
Yeah, it does. It feels like about an hour, right?
Yeah.
Well, it's time goes by a little differently when you've got cameras on you and the bright lights shining.
At least I'm
down.
not sweating anymore.
No,
I've settled in.
It's gone now.
It's gone now. Appreciate that.
You look good, man.
Thanks.
You
do
good.
Too.
Oh, thank you.
I wish I were in your attire than this attire right now.
Yeah, sorry about that. If next time you'll know.
I will.
Next time you know.
Very true.
Yeah, because it's a hot day and it stays hot in here for sure.
Yes, it does.
Well, I think we're doing pretty good here. Is there anything else that you'd like to mention?
Honestly, I'm more of a question answer kind of guy.
Okay.
So I'm more of I think quicker if I get thrown a question that I can speak on. Speaking on it just to speak on it seems weird for me.
Okay.
So let's try it that way.
All right. So let me throw a couple questions at you then. We can do that.
Let's see.
All right.
Let's change up the game a little bit.
Okay. What do you think the future of the digital marketing industry for small agencies is going to look like?
Ooh, that's a good one.
I like that.
I like that one.
Not pulling any punches.
Clearly, Floyd Mayweather here, guy.
Long reach too.
Yeah, right. So I think that we are going to, smaller agencies will get more into social landscape, right?
Niche down.
Yeah, they're definitely going to niche down into social landscaping.
I like that word, landscaping, social landscaping. Because
I just coined it.
Very nice.
Yeah, right.
Copyright, patent pending.
Patent pending. Social landscaping. I think that's what it's going to be. So because I just coined it, let's try to throw out a definition for it, right?
Go for it, yeah.
Social landscaping.
Webster's is listening.
I hope so. Social landscaping will be, how does the consumer view social tactics on social media, right? At least I think that's what I'm saying. I like it.
I like it. So how they will view tactics, that's interesting because I'm thinking about SEO. Search engine optimization used to be this big thing, and it's still there, right?
But it's not as big.
No, it's not as big.
No.
But what you hear more of, which comes off as much more realistic, as local SEO.
Yeah,
so you can do localized SEO.
Right.
And I wonder if that might apply to social landscaping, where rather than attempting to, hey, you just need to make a page, you need to make a social channel here, a Facebook fan page, and a LinkedIn company page, and an Instagram. No, we actually need to sculpt out how people will come to you and how they'll interact. It looks more localized, even though it's not geographically localized.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, let's even go a little bit further.
Please.
So with SEO, the easiest way to build SEO was do what? Blog, right?
Okay.
You had to blog, and you had to put posts out. You had to do constant
depends
blog
on
posts.
when, right?
Well, it depends on when, too.
There was a time when it was just stuffing keywords.
Yeah, it was metadata, and you just had to keep keying as much as you can. And then
1,000 keywords.
Yeah, and you were good. And then it went from that to, okay, well, show potentials, the inner workings of what you're thinking. Blogs. And you post your blogs, you post one a day or one a week, and the more you did it, the more Google would capitalize it, and then it would post out, right?
Publishing, publishing content. They wanted to see it. They still do, but it's not the same.
Well, now it seems more like, at least with the millennials, it's all social. Everything's been related to social. I mean, hell, you're on your phone at least 24 hours a day, and I guarantee you're probably on it at least 6 of the 24. You're scrolling through your phone. You're flipping through Facebook. You're liking things on Instagram, right? Not even the good ones. Like, you're not even on, like, LinkedIn trying to do – like, no, you're just scrolling to see a dog video, right?
Right.
So I think if agencies start to social landscape, you are now mowing the lawn of – a company's social profile to raise more awareness on a intrapersonal level, right? So companies will take more to not cat videos. I'm not saying the cat videos, right? But I'm saying things like we're doing right now, seeing the behind the scenes of what we're doing right now is more of the social landscaping because it connects me with the owner.
It's so interesting. I think that the audience can already hear that you and I, in a good way, see things in different angles because when I think of what you're describing, I can hear what you're saying and understand, but I think that the idea of carving out landscapes between engagement is also really compelling.
Yeah,
Right. And you
yeah.
probably, and I think you're thinking of it also, but
I am.
I think it's like you're thinking at a high level and I'm trying to like carve the road.
Right. So I'm looking at the freeway and you're going to the road to get to the freeway, right?
All right. How do we get those steamrollers through?
But no, I think that will definitely be one of them. I don't want to say print is dead. I hate saying I started in print design. That's how I started.
It's not entirely dead. I mean, if you look around we can look around our room and we can look around any room that any listener is in. There's something printed, right? We don't yet live in a world of all lasers and light and graphics. So there still is print, but certainly it's more selective, right?
But where it might go is augmented reality, right? So and wearables. Wearables might be the wave of the future. So having that Minority Report, you walk in and then they do a retina scan and you start popping up things of advertisements from Gap that's tailored to you.
Right.
That could be something. God, I hope not, but that could be something. I don't even know where
they're going to sell me a lot of flip flops.
Hey, why not?
T-shirts.
Yeah. Sell me watches and rings and suits. Which is kind of sad because I will probably buy them. But and that's
probably not from Gap. But.
No, not from Gap. But and that's what's funny too.
No offense, Gap.
Yeah, no offense. But. If you're listening, I hope you're not. Here's the funny thing too. As a consumer, I don't like some of the things that that advertisers do to pitch product or even to convince you to buy a product, right? So like programmatic advertising, those ads that you can't click out of when you're going onto YouTube. Personally, I can't stand those.
Because you're trapped.
Because I'm trapped.
Yeah.
But then as a marketer, I go, I understand the need for them. Mm-hmm. So sure. it's you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. You go, all right, well, look, I understand the purpose of it. I don't like the purpose of it, but I get it.
Like it. Can I pull you onto a tangent real fast?
Please.
Okay. As I think we should probably start wrapping in the relative near future, but you've had the opportunity to work with some big brands in the past. Mm-hmm. And we're talking about brand management, a little bit about brand, not a little bit, we're talking about brand differentiation as well.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to hear from your experience, how do you suggest that marketers listening would position themselves position themselves to the bigger brands?
Whew. Well, you just got to go out and do it. No, I'm kidding. I think a lot of it has to do with a nod to the past. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of it has to do with remembering what these big Fortune 500 companies started. So they weren't always Fortune 500. I think if you could go back in a nod of the past to relate to the future, I think that would be a good way to differentiate. Because we're so used to seeing things done a certain way, right? A Coca-Cola commercial looks almost similar, damn near the same to a Pepsi commercial, which looks the same to a Sprite commercial, which looks the same to a Sierra Mist commercial, and so on and so forth.
Right.
There's nothing different between it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think if we could go back to the reason of why it started, go back to the reason of what pushed the idea to do this, that would be a good I think that would be a good way to differentiate.
I like it, even if you break the mold, right? Because even if you decide to go in a different direction, you still need to base that direction in reality of where that tree grew up from.
Exactly. So go back to the root of the tree. Mm-hmm. Find what made you want to plant that tree to begin with, and then market that. Push that out. super brands that will never hire us in a million years because we're way too small and we're in Columbia, Maryland, and we're in Maryland in general. Kidding again. I'm a kidster. But I think for a lot of the bigger brands, it's more so trying to relate to the consumer's problems. I think that's a big thing too, right? Because I remember getting you know what? No, it's about the warm and fuzzy. That's what it is.
Okay.
Let's call a spade a spade. It's about the warm and fuzzies. If you can get me on the warm and fuzzy, then you've got me as a client, right?
Can you give me an example?
Nothing feels better than seeing the two polar bears for Coca-Cola slide down the hill with mom, it was a dad polar bear and brother polar bear, and they're sliding down the hill, and then they go for the Coke, and then the son has a problem opening it, and then the father polar bear pops it open and gives it to the son, and they all chug it together, and it makes me feel all warm and fuzzy, and now I want a Coca-Cola, right?
I see. Yeah, and somehow the little baby polar bear is wearing a cute little cap.
Yeah.
Was wearing a little beanie.
Yeah. Prime example. So Johnny Walker did an ad not too long ago that talked about brotherhood, right?
Okay.
And it was the story basically was there were two brothers, and they were walking down the aisle, and there's a voiceover of one of the brothers talking, right? Mm-hmm. And you see the camaraderie between the two brothers, right? And you see this whole thing. It looks like they're going to a destination. When you finally get to the destination, you realize that only one brother is there, and it's to spread the ashes of the other brother across the aisle.
Wow.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And it hits you right into the chest.
Right.
Right here.
It's emotionally impactful.
It's so emotional. And then it's like, now I want to have a Johnny Walker is Black because that commercial just resonated so hard. I've had to bury someone in the past. I've had family members that I've lost. These things are emotional connectors. So now I want to share in that brand because they feel the same thing that I feel, right? I think that's a good way to differentiate.
The warm and fuzzies.
It's the warm and fuzzies.
Specific to the customer, right? Specific to the customer and authentic to the brand.
Yes, absolutely.
Love
Eureka, we've got it.
We do. The formula is out there now. Perfect.
But now come to us. Come to Spiral Marketing. Come to KDGA so we can heighten on that. That's how that works.
Amen.
Man.
Amen.
Shameless promotion again.
We'll spiral up and get that KDGA style.
We'll build your brand and they'll spiral up and it'll be perfect.
Beautiful.
I like it.
Well, that's a good place to wrap on, I think.
I think so.
Well, Justin Jones, it's been a pleasure having you on. Before you go, what is the best place for people to learn more about you and to reach you?
Go to www.kdga.net. So Kappa, Delta, Gamma, Alpha.net. Mm-hmm. You can email us at info@kdga.net. Or you can call us at 443-539-7802.
Beautiful. Justin, thanks so much for being on the show,
Thanks
man.
for having me. Pleasure. I appreciate it. Hope we can do more of these.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.